All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on something pretty wild, the hidden mental machinery that's quietly driving almost every single decision you make. We're talking everything from what you buy to what you believe. So let's just dive right in. Have you ever wondered about stuff like this? I mean, you're halfway through a movie that's just awful, but you feel like you have to finish it? Or think about losing a $20 bill. That feeling of dread is so much stronger than the little kick of joy you get from finding one. Well, these aren't just random quirks. They're actually predictable patterns in how all of our minds work. And here's the reason why, right here. See, your brain's main job isn't to be perfectly accurate all the time. Its primary goal is to save energy. I mean, it's getting hit with billions of bits of information every single second. There's no way it could analyze everything perfectly. So what does it do? It's evolved to take shortcuts to get the job done, and fast. Which brings us to our first big idea. We tend to think of these mental shortcuts as flaws, right? But the truth is, they're actually an incredibly clever evolutionary feature. They're what helps us navigate this crazy, complex world. Okay, so the technical term for these shortcuts is a heuristic. Really, just think of it as a rule of thumb. You know, when you're deciding if you can trust a stranger, you're not going to run a full background check. Instead, you use a heuristic, a quick judgment based on their body language or tone of voice. It's a fast, good enough solution. Psychologists have a great name for this, a fast and frugal strategy. And honestly, most of the time, these heuristics work incredibly well for us. They're the reason we can make thousands of decisions a day without getting totally bogged down in analysis paralysis. They keep us moving, functioning, and, well, alive. And this is a really big but. There is a hidden cost. Relying on these super efficient shortcuts can and does lead us into predictable, systematic errors. And that is where things get really, really interesting. So it's absolutely crucial to get the difference between a heuristic and a bias. The heuristic is the shortcut itself. You can think of it as a feature of the brain. The cognitive bias, on the other hand, is the predictable mistake that happens when we use that shortcut in the wrong situation. It's the systems glitch. One's the cause, the other's the effect. So let's actually explore some of the most common and, frankly, fascinating glitches in our thinking. Think of this next part as a quick field guide to the biases that shape your daily life way more than you probably realize. We're going to start with a big one, loss aversion. This is built on a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. We hate losing more than we love winning. That psychological sting you feel from a loss is way more intense than the pleasure you get from an equal gain. This chart just visualizes that feeling perfectly. Look at this. The psychological pain of losing $50 is nearly double the joy of gaining $50. This powerful impulse explains so much, like why people might cling to a losing stock way too long just to avoid the pain of selling it and making that loss real. Okay, let's move on to the framing effect. This bias shows that we never make decisions in a vacuum. The exact same information can lead us to completely different conclusions, all depending on how it's presented, how it's framed. It's not just about the facts, it's about the story that's wrapped around them. For instance, imagine you're at the grocery store. You see a package of ground beef, and it says 75% lean. Sounds pretty good, right? It's highlighting a positive quality. Now, what about this one right next to it, 25% fat? It is the exact same product, but by framing it around the negative, the fat content, it suddenly sounds way less appealing. Most of us would grab option A, even though there is literally no difference. That is the framing effect in action. Ah, yes, the sunk cost fallacy. This is that little voice in your head that convinces you to stick with the bad movie or that failing project at work. We have this deep, deep need to justify our past decisions. So we keep throwing more time, money, or effort at something, not because it makes any sense for the future, but because we just don't want to feel like we wasted our past investment. And that kind of irrationality also spills over into how we categorize our money. This brings us to mental accounting. Logically, a dollar is a dollar, right? But not in our minds, it's not. We create these separate mental buckets for our money. We might be super protective of our emergency fund, but if we get a surprise $100 tax refund, we might spend it on something totally frivolous, even though both are just $100. And here's where it all comes together, because these biases aren't just fun little psychological quirks or trivia facts. No way. They have a massive, very real impact on our lives. And they shape our world in some pretty profound ways. I mean, they influence your financial health, guiding your investments and savings. They drive your consumer choices every single day. They can even mess with the results of scientific medical trials, through the placebo effect. And this is a big one. They shape how you learn and adapt to new situations. So how does this all fit together? Well, all these shortcuts and glitches, they combine to create our mental models. You can think of these as your internal maps of reality. They're the basic blueprints we use to make sense of the world and make decisions. But here's the good news. These maps, they're not permanent. They can be redrawn. This process right here is the fundamental loop of learning. We run into something new, we use the map we have, and we see what happens. When our map leads us down the wrong path, that failure is actually crucial feedback. It lets us adapt and draw a better, more accurate map for the future. This is literally how we get wiser. So, the first step is just being aware. Just by listening to this, you're already better equipped to spot these glitches in your own thinking. But the real challenge isn't just knowing they exist, it's catching them in the act. So I'll leave you with this question. Where in your own life will you start looking for these hidden shortcuts first?